Welcome back to the Deep Dive. It is so great to have you with us today.
Really glad you're here.
Yeah, and I want you to start off by, just picturing something in your mind's eye. And honestly, it shouldn't take much effort.
Right, because it's arguably one of the most instantly recognizable images in all of American history.
Exactly. I mean, you've seen it on ironic greeting cards. You've seen The Simpsons do it.
The Muppets version.
Yes, the Muppets.
Mhm.
It's that older, austere-looking farmer holding a pitchfork, standing right next to his spinster daughter. And right behind them is this very specific white wooden house with that tall, pointed Gothic-style window.
It is practically woven into the visual DNA of the culture at this point. Like, you almost don't even need to look at it to know exactly what it is.
Right. And we're talking, of course, about Grant Wood's 1930 painting, American Gothic.
The one and only.
And so the reason we are asking you to visualize this today is because of the incredible source material we're jumping into. We are looking at a truly eye-opening essay by the Chicago author and educator John Novick Jr.
Yeah, it's a fascinating piece.
It really is. And he actually selected this specific piece of writing for inclusion in his ongoing audio series, which is called America, actually.
This is such a great series.
Yeah. So our mission for this deep dive is to, look past all those countless pop culture parodies.
Look past the cheap Halloween costumes.
Exactly. And explore the surprisingly complex hidden layers beneath the paint. Okay, let's unpack this. Because to me, American Gothic is basically the original viral meme.
That's a great way to put it.
Right. It's this image that absolutely everyone recognizes, but I'd bet almost no one actually understands.
Oh, totally. People just think of it as the pitchfork guy.
Yeah, it's flat, it's easily replicable. But this eye-opening essay by Novick dismantles that entirely. And what fascinated me right out of the gate is the physical material Grant Wood used.
The canvas itself.
Right. The original prompt for our show noted it was painted in oil on beaver board. And I actually had to look that up because beaver board isn't some fancy imported Italian canvas.
Not at all. I mean, beaver board is basically an early form of particle board, or like drywall.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a cheap, compressed wood building material that you would just go buy at a standard lumber yard.
That's crazy.
And that choice of material is, it's our first clue into what Wood is doing here. He is grounding this painting in a working class, everyday reality before he even applies the first brushstroke.
Right, but Novick argues that we can't just look at the working class grit, right? Like, before we get to the muddy reality of what's happening in the painting, we have to understand what Novick calls its divine architecture.
Yeah, that's a crucial starting point, because the title itself, American Gothic, it isn't a reference to a spooky mood.
Right, not Edgar Allan Poe or a horror movie.
Exactly. The title comes directly from that prominent Gothic window sitting right in the center of the farmhouse. It points upward, toward the heavens.
Right.
Yeah, Grant Wood actually considered this to be a very religious painting.
And when you start actively looking for those religious elements, it's almost like a magic eye poster.
You suddenly can't unsee them.
Yes. You've got the steeple-like roof of the farmhouse itself. And then over on the left side in the background, kind of obscured by the trees, there's an actual church spire poking up into the sky.
Yep.
And look at what the farmer's wearing. He's got this crisp, perfectly clean white collar under a stark, heavy black jacket.
Right.
I mean, he doesn't just look like a guy ready to go plow a dirt field.
Yeah.
He looks remarkably like a clergyman wearing his Sunday suit.
He really does. And, the anchor of this whole religious allegory is the pitchfork itself.
Okay.
Wood was driving through his native Iowa one day, and he saw a young boy walking along the road carrying a pitchfork. But the boy wasn't carrying it casually over his shoulder.
How was he carrying it?
He was holding it completely upright, like rigid and vertical. And for Wood, who had traveled extensively through Europe studying art, that simple vertical silhouette immediately reminded him of the altar boys he'd seen in Europe's Gothic cathedrals.
Wait, really?
Yeah, those altar boys carrying tall, heavy candles toward the altar at the beginning of a high mass.
Okay, wait, I have to push back on that.
Sure.
You're telling me a painter sees a kid with a standard farming tool on a dirt road in Iowa, and his brain immediately jumps to a high mass in a 13th century European cathedral. That feels like a massive leap to make. Is Wood literally saying farming is a religion?
I know it sounds like a leap, but look at how Wood structured the painting. He elevates this mundane, everyday farming tool into a sacred object. It's held directly in the center of the composition,
Right.
and Wood reinforces this whole feeling through repetition and perfect geometry.
Oh, you mean the perfect circles?
Exactly.
Yeah, you see them in the shape of the trees in the background, which look, honestly, almost artificially round.
Very deliberate.
But then, that exact same spherical curve is repeated in the window shades on the porch. It's repeated in the pattern of the daughter's apron, and it's mirrored perfectly in the farmer's distinctly round glasses.
Right.
But what is the actual underlying logic there? Like, why is he so obsessed with circles?
Well, it comes down to what a circle represents in an agrarian society. In an industrialized city, time is linear, right?
Right, the punch clock.
Exactly, the factory whistle, moving forward from point A to point B. But in farming, time is circular. The circles are a representation of the change of seasons.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah, spring planting, fall harvest, winter dormancy, spring rebirth. It is the unending cycle of life.
Which is the fundamental rhythm of agriculture.
Mm-hmm.
But then Nuvik points out how wood takes the shape of the pitchfork, which has 3 very distinct prongs.
Yes.
And he subtly repeats that trident shape in the stitching of the farmer's denim overalls. I mean, it's woven right into his chest.
And that specific detail is doing, like, double duty for the painting's meaning. On one hand, denim is a quintessentially American fabric, right?
Yeah, totally.
So it grounds the image in the working class United States. But those 3 prongs radiating across his chest, they represent the Christian Trinity.
It's like hiding divine Easter eggs in everyday work clothes.
Exactly.
But I'm still struggling with the ultimate message here. Like, at the end of the day, these people are just trying to grow corn and survive, right?
They are. But historically, those 2 concepts were deeply intertwined. Novik's essay unpacks this long-held historical notion that working the land inherently puts a person in tune with the earth.
Oh, yeah.
And by extension, if you are intimately tied to nature's cycles, you are intimately tied to God. Novik actually synthesizes this really well.
What does he say?
He notes that the painting captures, and I'm quoting here, the essence of middle-class rural America, its values, its determination in the face of adversity, its struggles, poverty, and stoicism.
I want to latch onto that phrase from Novik's, quote, determination in the face of adversity.
Yeah.
Because to me, that phrase is the bridge between the heavenly ideals and the earthly grit.
Yeah.
If you only focus on the harmonious religious symbolism, you miss the intense human drama actually happening on the beaver board.
Absolutely.
When we view this painting through the lens of history, it abruptly shifts from being a quiet, religious portrait into an incredibly tense, defensive standoff.
The historical context is absolutely paramount here. I mean, we are in 1930.
The Great Depression.
Right. The stock market has crashed, the economy is ravaging the country, and the ecological disaster of the Dust Bowl is just beginning to suffocate the agricultural heartland.
And let's be clear about the mechanics of that disaster. The topsoil is quite literally blowing away.
Yep.
Meaning crops fail, meaning farmers can't pay their debts, meaning the banks are aggressively calling in loans. This is an era of mass foreclosures.
Exactly. So when you look at their physical posture with that economic context in mind, they aren't just stiffly posing for a Sunday family photo.
No, not at all.
They are physically blocking the entrance to their home. They are actively facing the threat of losing everything they own.
Wow.
And Wood's compositional genius is how he forces a role upon whoever is looking at the painting. He positions the viewer right at the gate.
Right. We are standing in the gravel of their front yard. We aren't a neutral audience.
No, we're not.
The perspective places us in the role of the intruder. We are the bank's sheriff coming to serve eviction papers. And look at their reaction to our presence.
It's intense.
The farmer is glaring straight ahead. His eyes are wide open, completely unblinking, and his hands are gripping that pitchfork so tightly his knuckles are defined.
He isn't holding a tool.
He's holding a weapon. He is totally unyielding.
And contrast that with the daughter. She's peering off to the left, her eyes darting away from the viewer. It creates this profound psychological tension.
Right.
Is she unable to look at us, the supposed sheriff, because the reality of eviction is too painful? Or is she nervously looking down the road to see if backup is coming?
The tension is palpable. But here's where it gets really interesting.
Okay.
I have a major problem with this interpretation, and it comes down to Wood's casting choices.
The models.
Yes. If this is meant to be a gritty, desperate standoff against a sheriff, Wood's choice of models is completely bizarre. He didn't use a starving, desperate farmer-facing ruin.
No, he didn't.
He used his own sister, Nan, and his personal dentist, Dr. McKeeby.
Yep.
Like, if you were trying to make a profound statement about the plight of the working class, why use a comfortable, wealthy dentist in a costume? Doesn't that totally undermine the reality he's trying to portray?
It's a very fair critique, and honestly, it's one art historians have debated for decades. But Novick argues that it doesn't undermine the reality, it actually expands it.
How so?
Dr. McKeeby and Nan Wood aren't meant to be read as literal documentary subjects.
Yeah.
They are acting as universal stand-ins.
Oh, okay.
By taking familiar, comfortable faces and placing them in this fraught context, Wood turns them into avatars for the entire American struggle. Novick explicitly highlights this in his essay.
Right.
He notes that these models are positioned as a Midwest farmer and spinster daughter standing in a, quote, defensive position during the Great Depression in the 1930s Dust Bowl, facing foreclosure and blocking entrance to their home.
So they represent an archetype. They are standing in for every single family backed into a corner during that time.
Precisely.
Which leads to another major revelation in Novick's analysis. Because even as they stand united against the sheriff, Wood subtly divides their power.
Yes, the spatial positioning.
Right. When you analyze exactly how these figures are positioned in the space, Wood is deliberately recording the traditional gender roles of 1930s America.
It is a meticulous architectural blueprint of 1930s patriarchy.
It really is.
Let's look closely at the spatial dynamics. Wood completely divides the physical world of the painting. The father stands boldly in the extreme foreground. He is large, imposing, and his physical size actually partially obscures his daughter.
Right. She is tucked slightly behind him.
Furthermore, he is positioned squarely in front of the red barn.
And the barn represents the external world. It represents physical labor, agriculture, the harsh reality of commerce and survival.
Exactly.
But the daughter is pushed backward into the composition. She is visually anchored to the domestic space. She is positioned right in front of the kitchen window and the potted houseplants sitting on the porch.
Those houseplants are key. They are symbols of cultivated interior life, entirely separate from the untamed fields.
A 1930s time capsule of domestic spheres.
Definitely. And Wood emphasizes this divide even further through their physical traits. The farmer has deeply earthen-hued hands, literally stained and weathered from the soil.
And he's wearing coarse, functional denim overalls.
While the daughter, and it's worth noting, her face is the only skin we actually see as she's completely covered up.
Right.
She has a much fairer, protected complexion, suggesting she spends her time indoors. And she's wearing this delicate smock, complete with intricate lace and a decorative cameo brooch.
It's a stark, undeniable contrast of fabric, flesh, and societal roles.
It really is, and it forces us to ask a difficult question about the artist's intent. Because he is painting these rigid gender roles and these tight-pinched, almost humorless expressions.
Exactly, and that leads to the ultimate debate, the one people have been arguing about since the paint dried. Is Grant Wood making fun of these people, or is he praising them?
The million-dollar question.
Right, because I can look at the puritanical clothing, the
Yeah.
rigid separation of men and women, the dour faces, and think, wow, he's really satirizing the narrow-mindedness and claustrophobia of small-town rural life.
Sure.
But then I look at the religious reverence we discussed and the stoic bravery against the foreclosure bank, and I think he's canonizing them as American heroes. Which one is it?
Well, it is both and neither.
Ah,
That is the profound ambiguity of the work. It is the very friction that keeps us debating its meaning nearly a century later. It vividly records the foundational roots of a nation, but as Novick points out in his essay, it remains incredibly unclear whether Wood is poking fun at rural America with biting satire or if he is earnestly memorializing it.
it refuses to be neatly solved.
Exactly. It operates as a historical record, a religious allegory, and a potential satire, all simultaneously.
And that specific ambiguity is what leads us to Novick's most crucial thesis. This is the part of the essay that really shifted how I will look at this painting forever.
It's a game changer.
It is. Because Novick argues that American Gothic isn't just a static artifact hanging on a museum wall. It is a mirror. It reflects a deeply ingrained American trait that we see repeating over and over throughout history.
This is the absolute core of Novick's essay. The hosts, well, we have to emphasize that this painting is and has always been far more powerful, more relevant, and more about all of us than we've ever been willing to admit.
Yeah, even though it is rooted in a particular time and place with a particular people in mind, its universality is what makes it so fascinating.
Right. So I think it's best if I read Novik's exact conclusion directly from the text, because he synthesizes it so powerfully.
Please do.
Novick finds, quote, a seldom recognized central theme of this Grantwood masterpiece. The role of simple and stoic but determined, even fierce resistance to economic injustice and the abuse of power and authority in the American character and story, as relevant today as ever. From the Revolution to the Depression to today's corporate greed and ICE's brutal raids.
Okay, so what does this all mean? Because, and I need to interject here for just a second. Novick obviously just brought up some very modern politically charged references there. Corporate greed, ICE raids.
All right.
And I want to be crystal clear to you listening. Our goal today on this deep dive isn't to validate, endorse, or debate those specific modern politics. We are not taking sides or endorsing any political viewpoints regarding corporate structures or ICE.
Absolutely not. Our role is strictly to impartially report on the content of John Novick Jr.'s essay.
Right.
What Novick is arguing and what we are examining is simply the psychological mechanism of the artwork itself.
Yeah, it's about how observers throughout different eras will continually map their own contemporary struggles onto the stoic defiance seen in the painting. The farmer and the daughter blocking their gate against a 1930s bank essentially becomes a blank canvas.
Precisely.
Whatever abusive power or authority a viewer feels they are facing in their own generation, they can see themselves in those two figures holding the line. It's just fascinating how a piece of cheap beaverboard painted almost 100 years ago acts as a generational Rorschach test.
That is the defining hallmark of universal art. Novick is showing us that while the lace collars, the denim overalls, and the Gothic architecture undeniably belong to the Depression era, the emotional posture transcends the 1930s.
The fierce, unyielding resistance.
Exactly. When backed into a corner, that is a repeating loop in the American story. It's a mechanism of survival that resonates regardless of the decade.
When you look back at everything we've talked about today, it's incredible to think about the journey this one image took us on.
A long way from a meme on a coffee mug.
Truly. We started with what most of us just dismiss as a funny parody.
Yeah.
But by following Novick's eye-opening essay, we unpacked this incredibly complex web. We saw the divine geometry, the altar boy pitchfork, the circles representing the unending seasons.
Yeah.
We stood in the gravel as the foreclosure sheriff, facing down a desperate family in the Dust Bowl. We examined a literal architectural blueprint of 1930s societal roles, right down to the lace in the earthen hands. And finally, we uncovered a timeless symbol of resistance.
It just proves that art is a living, breathing thing. You know, the actual physical house used by Grant Wood as the backdrop.
Yeah.
It still stands in Eldon, Iowa today. You can go visit it. The wooden structure is fixed in place. But the meaning of the painting, that changes depending on who the viewer imagines is standing at the gate.
That is such an evocative way to frame it.
Yeah.
It makes you realize that we are just the latest audience standing at that gate, trying to figure out what they're so fiercely defending.
Which leaves us with something I really want you to mull over after we sign off today. Well, that farmer and his daughter have been guarding that home on that canvas since 1930. But if Grant Wood were to set up his easel and paint American Gothic today, right now, what American fabric would those figures be wearing? What modern, everyday tool would replace the pitchfork? And most importantly, who or what would they be defending themselves against?
Oh, wow. That is a question that will definitely stick with you the next time you see this image scrolling across your feed. Thank you so much for joining us for this deep dive into American Gothic and the essay by John Novick Jr. Keep questioning the thing you think you already know, and we will catch you on the next one.
Take care, everyone. Keep looking closely.